A lot of people are wondering how they allowed Biden to get this far. It's the question on some Democrats' minds this week, with many blaming the White House press corps. Jill Abramson, the former executive editor of the New York Times, wrote in Semaphore, quote, "It's clear the best news reporters in Washington have failed in the first duty of journalism to hold power accountable. It's our duty to poke through White House smokescreens to find out the truth. The Biden White House clearly succeeded in a massive cover-up of the degree of the president's feebleness and his serious physical decline, which may be simply the result of old age. Shame on the White House press corps for not having pierced the veil of secrecy surrounding the president." Glenn Greenwald added that CNN is coming to a similar conclusion. In an article, CNN quotes a reporter who says the White House press shop has also been very aggressive and fairly successful in mitigating coverage of concerns over the president's age. The reporter essentially says the press corps knew how much age stories angered the White House and the liberal Twitter sphere.
CNN's Jake Tapper also blaming top Democratic officials for trying to convince the public that Joe Biden's in great shape. Take a look.
There is a pattern, discernible pattern of Democratic officials seemingly trying to convince you, the public, to not believe what you saw and what you heard with your eyes and with your ears on Thursday night.
Yeah, there's no way around it. A lot of people are asking why it wasn't made more evident to the American people that the decline has become so bad. Of course, there are a number of possible explanations, one being that the press themselves were shielded from it. Obviously, they've done those press conferences, a couple of them where they've asked some confrontational questions, and he's totally trailed off. There was one specifically about Israel where he forgot who was in negotiations, and someone in one of the press reporters had to say, Hamas, you mean Hamas. There have been moments like that. Really, I think it was mainly not so much the press corps, although I see that argument. To me, it's the White House itself constantly and aggressively engaged on spin on behalf of Biden and denying that there's anything wrong with him and attacking journalists, some conservative journalists, but also mainstream journalists for pretending otherwise. And then the talking heads on cable news who are very much, not officially part of the White House, but are in the Biden camp, who tried to cover up the age-related questions.
Yeah, I think that's broadly right. There's a misconception about the press corps that I think is in people who are lucky enough to not have to do this for a living, which is that they think the press corps has total access to the president, that they can wander into the Oval Office and ask him questions, when in fact the reporting that we've seen come out is of a president who's very closely guarded by top advisors, who even junior level advisors have trouble getting directly to without extensive scheduling appointments, without being very closely checked, and meetings are generally kept very short. Joe Biden is not the kind of president who's hanging out in the press room jawing with people like Bill Clinton did for hours at a time.
Yeah.
He is a very distant figure. But at the same time, we also know that the press corps is an access-based organization, that they're going to prize access over telling a really tough story that may result in them not getting a scoop or being left out of the next big story. And that's a real conflict that I think the press corps itself struggles to resolve.
Where I think the press went most wrong with respect to the Biden mental decline question is in not realizing earlier that this was a top concern of Americans and having their reporting reflect the seriousness of that question. Polling has shown for a very long time now that a majority of Democrats had serious doubts about Biden's ability to run for re-election.
Yep.
Even if they support him and want him to be president, they have these serious doubts. And that has been the reality for a long time. And there have not, most of the reporting on Biden's age or he's too old has come from adversarial conservative news sources. I think a lot of people in Washington, liberal media figures, mainstream media figures, were about, this is all about the issues, which it is about the issues. Don't get me wrong. Inflation, immigration, foreign policy, other things. Issues do matter. These two figures are very well known. I don't think it's really a clash of personalities. I think it is about the issues. It's about the issues and the reality of Biden's fitness for the office given his advanced age. That has come through in the polling so clearly. I think it's not been a focus of the press corps. You're right, though, that it's an access-based thing, and they've not had a lot of access to him. But I think a lot of people writing about Biden and writing about the White House have not sufficiently, until now, foregrounded that question, understanding that it's top of the American people's mind. You know, when you go outside D.C., you go, visit other parts of the country, you talk to family and friends who are, keyed into politics, not professionally the way we are, but are paying attention, regardless if they're pro-Trump or pro-Biden. The age thing comes up in conversation with them immediately. And I think that's what was being missed.
Yeah, this is not a new issue. It's rather the D.C. press realizing an issue that has been there for a while and finally discussing it. I think in the same way that Donald Trump is sort of helped by people like Project Lincoln, who dial it up to 11 on the extreme rhetoric, Joe Biden's been really helped by places like Newsmax and Fox News that constantly say he has dementia, that he can't walk, that he's being puppeted by people. And it makes it easier to say, well, there's no way that this extreme situation can be true. And it allows you to say, well, it's Fox News, let's get serious. But the reality now is that, these people, and especially in the press corps, have to answer questions about why they weren't taking those questions more seriously and why they weren't, quite frankly, as loud about being denied access to Joe Biden as they were when they were denied access to Trump, when they were denied access to Obama. That's a very different tone for the press corps to strike.
Yeah, I mean, I want a time frame. I want to know if he's fit for the presidency right now. I want to know how bad is the decline day to day. If it's true that he has more good days than bad, great. I want to see him on some of those good days so we can do that, so we can count ourselves to know that this is not just a steady progression into, the path that we all will take someday into mental decline and an elderly situation, at which point you shouldn't be working, or at least you shouldn't be in, let alone the toughest job on planet Earth.
Yeah. It's not exactly a winning strategy from Biden's perspective either to say, listen, you guys can count the days I'm healthy and see if inside you it makes sense to reelect me. Woof.
Yeah, on some level, if you wouldn't trust this person to manage your local hardware store because of their age-related decline, how could they possibly be fit to be president of the United States? And again, we're deciding whether we're signing him up for 4 more years of this. That's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long time. So the press definitely has to reckon with how it's come to this, how it's all breaking out now, a moment no one could spin or deny, where it was seen for the entire American people on television, and we've gotten to this place, and there will be a reckoning on how it got to that. Well, I know that was a lot of Biden news today on Rising, but a lot of things are happening in Washington. Lots of updates to bring you on whether President Joe Biden will indeed stay in the race for the presidency. This does it for us today. Thank you so much, Max, for being here. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, we will have a slew of captivating content posted for you on the 4th of July, which is a holiday tomorrow. And then, of course, Amber Duke, Jessica Burbank will be back for the regular installment of Rising Fridays. And then I will be back with you on Monday. See you then.